Growing up, I always knew I meant to live a life near the ocean. I always had an affinity towards it, and I just knew it was my home. And so when I followed my heart's desire and moved out to San Juan, La Union, my days have been nothing but pure joy, intentional moments, tending to my inner child, continuous evolution, meeting kindred souls along the way, making the most out of my youth, exploring places, spending time with Mother Nature whenever I want, and for that, I'm grateful. And so here is a story of how I moved out to La Union. Enjoy! Hello loves, and welcome back to Patty's Path. So under my channel, we have Your Highest Version Radio, where we talk about topics and stories that help you reach your highest version. On today's episode, I will be talking about the story of how I moved out from Manila to La Union, a little surf town at the north of the Philippines, and the whole journey that it took to get to this point. I actually got inspo to make this video from an online friend of mine who witnessed the journey of me moving out to La Union. She asked how did I do it and how she can do it as well. That, and because other people on my TikTok were also asking how I moved out to La Union, so here I go. So this video is divided into chapters for your convenience, so stick around and enjoy the episode. So starting off with how I knew La Union was the place for me. So I wrote my notes on my phone so that I don't forget anything, and I make sure to give you all the information that you need if you want to move out. But how did I know that La Union was for me? I think as a kid, I always had an affinity towards the ocean. I always loved nature, the sea, and so I always knew I was meant to live by the ocean. And then as a kid, growing up, I would hear or see people who are digital nomads who just travel everywhere. And when I discovered that, I was like, wow, I want to be just like them. So I think ever since I was young, I already had that calling within me. And so during high school, I think it was when I was about to graduate. So this was circa 2018. It was my first time visiting La Union, and honey, I knew the moment I stepped foot on that beach, I already fell in love. Like, I was culture shocked in a good way because of the surf culture, the community, how Mother Nature looked like there, and just how vibrant life felt like when I was in Elyu for the first time. And so obviously I was put under the spell of La Union, and ever since then I kept going back as much as I can. But after my first time, I just knew that this place was really calling to me. It was as if I was meant to be there at the right place and the right time. So that was during high school. Then come college, when I had more free time, I think almost every weekend, so this was circa 2020 to 2021, I was going to La Union almost every weekend, surfing and just enjoying the beachside lifestyle. And I just felt like I was at home, and the fact that I was able to surf, especially when the waves were good, I just knew that this place meant something to me. So it's as brief as that. I think ever since I was a kid, I always had a feeling that I meant to be near the ocean. The ocean will always be my home. And then during high school, when I first discovered La Union, that was when I was like, oh damn, this place could actually like fit the dream life that I want to live in. You know, the community is great, the beach lifestyle is amazing, there's good food, and the surf culture is amazing. And then college, I kept going back. It was as if it was my second home. So that's how I knew Elyu was for me. Now on to the next part, which is what actually pushed me to move out. So it was the middle of the pandemic, and we were all forced to stay indoors, and obviously we're forced to spend a lot of time with our family. And you know, I think this resonates with a lot of people when I say that spending too much time with your family or even anyone, it kind of makes you see each other's flaws, each other's shadows, and most of the time butt heads because you're spending too much time together. So that's what was happening. And so spending too much time with my parents or my family, I began to recognize the generational trauma within our family. and it honestly just became super toxic here in our household. So I think that part just adds to the fact that I knew back then that I wasn't really meant to live in the city. Like, I was more of a province seaside girl, and then this issue of like me spending too much time with my family and just knowing that I can't deal being with too much people and spending too much time with them, that adds to the part that I love spending so much time alone now that I'm solo living. So I'll get to that later. But yeah, it just pushed me to move out even more because I think I just wanted my solitude amidst everything that was happening in the pandemic and within our family. So, right in the middle of the pandemic, or when it was like slowly loosening in terms of the restrictions and regulations, I think it was around 2021, and my sister and I decided to move to La Union for a bit in our family vacation house. So, we used to have a bungalow there in San Juan, La Union for our family vacation house. And during those few months that my sister and I lived in that house of ours, it was honestly like a fever dream. Like, we would watch the sunset every day because it was just like a minute walk to the beach, and it would just be amazing. And then during the daytime, we would go to the beach and surf because we were still doing online classes during that time. It was the pandemic. But I think that's what started the trend of like, oh, you can actually do work online or study online. So during your free time, you can just do whatever, wherever you're from, right? So that was our life back then. And every time I look back at it, my heart just leaps because it was a really good time, honestly. So during our time there, I met other people, and we also got close to the local surfers and got immersed in the surf community. And so my mom actually was against this. She was super against it because she didn't understand that lifestyle and she didn't want me to interact with those types of people. In retrospect, I get her already. I really do. But she imposed it in a way that was super restricting and honestly so toxic that I felt like I had no free will. And because my mom didn't understand the life that I wanted to live, we then started having family disputes. My sister and I had our own issues with our parents, especially our mom, with one of them being that our mom sold our family vacation house in La Union shortly after living there, and she did it out of spite. So that was one. And another one being that she caused a whole ruckus or commotion in the whole La Union like surfer local community. So I really didn't like that, and I just didn't want other people getting involved. So I was really affected by that, and that caused dispar between me and my mom. And so with our house sold and a whole commotion happening in La Union because of my mom and, you know, the situation with the other local surfer scene community whatsoever, we were kind of forced to go back to Manila. And basically that's where I spiraled down. My mental health started to go down, like it depleted. I wanted to unalive myself because I knew where I wanted to be at, which is not specifically in La Union, but there because of the ocean, the surf culture, the community, but I couldn't be there. And so being so far from the dream life that I wanted, I was so disappointed, and that really left me heartbroken. This place means so much to me. I was able to find a safe space, and I was able to find happiness again after a long period of darkness. In darkness. It's really emotional because the last time I left this place, I didn't know when I would come back, and ngayon na nakabalik na ako, it's just, even just for the weekend, it already means so much because this is the place I call home. This is the place I consider home. I'm in love with this place and I see myself settling here after college. This is my home, and I wish it can still be my home. That's it for now. I just remember that time back then, after being sent back to Manila, I knew that my nervous system was dysregulated. I was on survival mode and I was just wanting to get back there, but I couldn't do anything. So I kind of felt like I was suffering.
Ano eh, parang recently nga, di ba, wala akong nararamdaman. Like, napaka-detached ko.
Come New Year 2022, this is a pivotal point in my life, in our family's life, and in this whole story. Basically, during that time, our family disputes were at its peak, at its worst. And I was angry at my mom. My sister was too because she was being so neurotic. We got into a really toxic fight that just ruined the whole holiday vibe. And while the New Year celebrations were ongoing, our family was going through it, and we eventually got kicked out. And just a disclaimer, I'm saying this with so much love now for my mom and my parents because we've come a long way. But back then, I think we were all just at the peak of our emotions. So her saying something like, lumayas ka or ayaw na kita dito, I think it's not something normal to go through at that age. I think I was just like 20 or 21, 22. Yeah, I think I was 21, but it wasn't normal to get kicked out. So definitely that left me into shambles. And wow, was that a way to start the new year, right? So with us getting kicked out and no sense of home and me just longing to be by the ocean, I made a promise to myself that by the time I graduate, I will move out to La Union on my own terms. So my parents knew about my wanting and kind of me planning to actually move out to La Union back then. And I was still studying. I was still finishing my final year of college. So I understand where they were coming from at that point. But what I meant was that after I get that bag and get that degree with some honors, I just want to actually tend to my inner child and fulfill a dream that I've always wanted to do, which is to live by the ocean. So they knew about like that plan, but they were still totally against it. And to each their own, but I think it was just because they're very traditional, they have very good occupations, and we come from a well-off family. We really do, and I appreciate that. And then to add to that, my mom would say something like, nasa taas ka na nga, ba't ka pa bababa? Meaning you're already up there, like we're well off, you're educated, you're a very good woman, and you have so much future in you. Why would you live back in the province and live a slow, simple life? So that was like where my mom was coming from. But for me, it was completely different in my mind. I know I am very much privileged and I know I have a plan ahead for my career when it comes to psychology, but can I please just have this moment or period in my life when I'm young and I'm able to do these things that I can just slow down and do what my heart desires. So that's where I was coming from, and they didn't understand it. So that's what, started that whole thing. And by the way, I have a whole nother video on my channel about the year that changed my life, and I suggest that you watch that because I go in depth there of how the whole move out happened, where my mind was at, and I honestly love that video. That video means a lot to me. So if you want to get a deeper dive into this story, then I suggest you watch that. Now on to the next part. How was life like getting kicked out and how did I prepare for the move out? So actually my sister and I, when we both got kicked out, so it wasn't just me, it was both her and I. We temporarily stayed in my small condo unit near my old school in my college. So it was very tiny and we had to fit our little lives in that unit. I think we stayed there for a few months. I'd say like the first 6 months of 2022. And those 6 months were really one of the most pivotal, life-changing, memorable, and substantial chapters of my life because it was in those 6 months in that tiny, tiny condo unit that I did so much shadow work, inner work, and I started my spiritual journey. You know, I started meditation, yoga, breath work, journaling, and reading on these self-help books. It was really during my lowest low, my rock bottom, wherein I didn't have a sense of home, a sense of family, a sense of purpose because I was away from my dream life. You know, it was during those 6 months that I really changed. And I cultivated this attitude of gratitude as well. You know, when people meet me now, they're like, "Oh my gosh, Patty, why are you so like optimistic and you're always saying thank you God, thank you universe?" I think that part of me stems from that chapter of my life when I had nothing. And you know, when you have nothing, some people will be like really sad about it, and as I was, but those who are spiritually inclined or those who are meant to have an incredible life, I think it is during your lowest lows when you try to find gratitude or find the magic in the smallest things that you begin to manifest a wonderful life. And that's what happened to me. When I was at my lowest low, when I felt like I had nothing, I started to be grateful for the smallest things. And by being grateful for the smallest things, like as simple as I'm so happy I get to eat this cup of rice, something like that, I was already happy. And from then on, I started manifesting my dream life. So other than the inner work and the shadow work, the spirituality to ground myself, plus an ego death and all that, a spiritual awakening, obviously in the practical material world, I had to get a job because if I wanted to move out, then I have to save up money. So that's a tip or an advice for those wanting to move out on their own. You have to get a job, honey. You have to get your bag. So as for me, I got my online work from home job while I was still finishing up my final year or my senior year of college. So basically you could call me a working student. Yes, she was a hustler even back then. So I didn't really land a job on the spot, but I was taking on random gigs, whether it be online or in person, just for me to get that bag and save up a little money. And finally, amidst all the job applications, I finally landed the virtual assistant position at this VA recruitment agency that I applied for. And they connected me with a Canadian client, and I've been working with this client for 3 years now until this very moment. So yes, I guess that's a good piece of advice to give to those who want to move out. Find a job, save up, get that bag so that when you're moved out already, you can maintain that lifestyle. Maybe I should actually make another video of how to job hunt online and find a job that allows you to have that work-life balance. So if you want my take on that and the tips I have to give, then do let me know in the comments below. And yeah. And last, on the portion of me preparing to move out, obviously if you're gonna move out, you need a place to move out. So with the help of my friends from La Union, I asked them to look for an apartment for me that is within my budget. And I wasn't maarte. Like, I wasn't really looking for a big apartment that's so bougie and all. I was just looking for a place super simple within my budget so I could move to La Union. And luckily, I did. And to be transparent for those who actually want to move to La Union in specific, the price range back then when I moved out, so the rental unit, the apartment that I got, which is a 1-bedroom apartment with like parking, living room, dining room, own kitchen, own CR, I paid 9,000 every month. So now the prices may have gone up, but that was the price of my very first apartment as a young adult. So I paid 9k pesos monthly. And once I put in my down payment and my security deposit, I knew it was just a waiting game until graduation day. Now on to the juicy part, the big move. So days before graduation, I was already planning my move out down to every detail. I packed all my items for the move out in these balikbayan boxes, and I did that all by myself. I got my apartment in Elyu secured. I had my savings in my bank already. I made sure I had an online job that will sustain my life there. And I made sure that I would graduate on time with the rest of my batch and with Latin honors, magna cum laude at that, period. So when graduation day finishes, I go and prepare my letter, long letter and speech to my parents about the move out that I'll do. And I knew they weren't gonna allow me, but I knew too that I was gonna do it nonetheless. And also kasi when your soul longs for it, there's a reason behind it. I think I wasn't moving out just for the surf, just for the people or whoever or whatever there, but I just knew that if I moved out and lived independently, I would grow as a woman, you know, paying my own bills, hustling with my own job, learning how to cook for myself, while also tending to my inner child by being with Mother Nature and stuff like that. I just knew I would grow as a person, I would grow as a soul, I would nourish my soul. That's why I fully went all in. So for those wanting to move out, make sure that even if you are scared, you know that that move out will help you grow as a person. And so, June 27, 2022 comes, and I finally move out to La Union. Oh my gosh, I clearly remember that day. I had booked my own van transportation that will carry all my balikbayan boxes, all my items, and me to La Union. So all of that was prepared. And I remember filming the way going to La Union with my van and just a road trip going there. I'll show it here. So that day, I finally get to my apartment in San Juan, La Union, and my mom actually offered to come with me during this whole move out. I know we weren't at the best terms during that time, but at the end of the day, she is still my mom. So I think that was her just kind of like checking me out on how I'll do this whole solo independent living. So she came with me and she helped out a bit, even if it was against like her wanting. But yes, so she only stayed like overnight and then by the next day she left. But I settled in for the next 2 weeks. I grounded, I was on hermit mode, and I just tried to make that place my own. If I still have the footage, I'll try to put the video of me here like repainting my walls and like how the whole thing went. I know I have it here.
In the past 6 months, have come to this point. Look at my
Overwhelmed and
look how fucking beautiful that looks. Yan na lahat ng pinagtrabahuan ko, lahat ng pinagdaanan ko, bitch.
Oh, bitch! She fucking did that!
So yes, I furnished my own apartment, I painted my own walls, and I got deep in my spiritual practice. You know, when you're coming from survival mode in the city and all the family trauma and issues, going to a safe space such as my own little apartment by the sea in La Union, it's like I finally have the time to slow down and breathe and ground and recenter. So that's what I did, especially during the first 2 weeks. And since then, it's been a journey to say the least, and I'm happy to say that I've been living in La Union for almost 3 years now. Of course, 3 years is a long time, and during my stay in LU, a lot has happened already, and most of that I'll save for another podcast episode. But during my stay in Elyu, I have learned a lot about myself, the world, or how to be an adult, while also tending to my inner child. Within these years since I moved out, I began to heal my parental and familial wounds. I think it's because I've cultivated this safe space of my own and took time to really fill my own cup with love and understanding, that I'm able to give this love back to my parents and my whole family and give them the love that maybe they haven't even experienced. So I think moving to La Union or living the independent life really helped heal those wounds so that I could give back love to myself and give that love back to my family. So at the moment, I am solo living and independently supporting myself. But you know, if there are sponsors out there, I'm just kidding. But yes, although now my parents willingly help me from time to time, and I think that's just their way of saying that, anak, we know that you can do it, but we can still offer some help from time to time. And I really appreciate that. So right now I work online and I have other streams of income like my online business, content creation, life coaching, and whatnot, because there's a lot there. I'm a very multi-passionate woman. But I just love doing all that to maintain also my lifestyle in La Union. As for my parents and I, we have since come a long way in our healing journey. And I can honestly say I love them so much. They are my life. I will fight for them. And they are my priority, especially right now. And nowadays, I go back and forth from Manila to La Union. And I love the best of both worlds. You know, I have the city life and the beachside life. And it's just amazing. But you know, the ocean will always be my home. And I just love this little life that I've created for myself. My heart is so full from sharing that story, and that's where I'll actually end this episode. Obviously, there's more to that story and how I live and maintain this work-life balance of mine. So do comment below what topics you want me to talk about, and I'll make sure to reply to them. Make sure to also like and subscribe to my channel if you want, since you're already here. Thank you so much for watching this episode of Your Highest Version Radio, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye!